So for the next few weeks, we are going to be looking at spreadsheets. Now, spreadsheets are a super useful tool. Knowing how to use them, there's plenty you can do. I'm sure if you ask your parents whether they use spreadsheets, a lot of them will say that they do. And some of the things you can do with them are amazing. I will go through some of these things with you later on. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a spreadsheet around a Rockstar challenge that we have. Similar to Britain's Got Talent, we have a similar competition coming up. So what we're going to do is we're going to help us create a spreadsheet for various things such as a seating plan, such as ticket sales, merchandise sales. But for today, what we're going to be looking at is our voting system. So we are going to obviously have performances. We're going to have people that will call in and text in to vote for their favorite artist. And we're basically going to create a spreadsheet for this. Now, you do have a spreadsheet already laid out for you. I will talk through these things. I will ask you to basically follow what I'm doing step by step. So pause the video when you need to, and then make sure you do what you need to. So I've got a list of tasks here, not many tasks going on for today. So the first thing I want you to do is enter the data below into the spreadsheet called RSC voting. So I've got the spreadsheet, Rockstar Challenge voting. I want you to enter these. So we've got telephone votes here and we've got text votes here. Now you can enter these manually, which might take a little bit of time. Easiest thing probably to do is highlight these cells or this part of the table. We can copy that using my Control and C. I can come over here to telephone votes and I can simply paste them over. So if you want to just very quickly pause the video, and if you want to just copy over those two bits of data, and then you can move on. Now, the next thing I wanted you to do is, if we look at all of these over here, in fact, let's just zoom in a little bit. So in cell E9, so we need to find cell E9. So remember, we've got cell references across the top. We've got the letters E. This is column E. We can look for 9. So that's cell E9, also written there. What I want you to do in cell E9 is enter a formula to calculate the week 1 income from telephone votes. So week 1 income from telephone votes. So we've got our income here. So it seems that we are charging £1.20 for telephone votes, 50 pence for text votes. I want to calculate the income. Now, if you were in maths, you need to think about how you do that. So if you're charging £1.20 per vote, all you'd easily do is say, how many of the votes we get, we're going to multiply that by £1.20. Now, the way we're going to do that in a formula is just a quick little recap from what we did do a few years ago. All my formulas do start off with the equals. This tells the spreadsheet that we want it to do some maths, to do some working out. And I can write this number, 189,034, or I can simply enter the cell reference, so D9 times how much ever we're charging. So I'm going to use the asterisk key. So you do have an asterisk key on the right-hand side of your keyboard on top of the number keypad, or you can use Shift and 8 on the main part of your keyboard, times whatever's in this cell. And this happens to be B4, times B4. And that's told me, we're not going to autofill, that's told me, so from week 1, we could be generating £226,840 and 80 pence. Now, usually, obviously, I would want you to enter this for all of these cells. You could do that, or what you could do is simply you can drag this formula down. Now, if we drag that formula down, if you take a look, obviously that doesn't look quite right. But if we look at the formula, we've got D9 times B4. Over here, we've got D10 times B5. We've got D11 times B6. We need to try and figure out what's gone wrong here. So D11, which is this cell here, 201,456, that is what I want to multiply. But I've got by B6 here. By inside B6, I've got nothing. So we've said 201,456 times nothing is obviously nothing. And obviously that's a mistake we made there. B5 was 50 pence, whereas obviously we wanted to keep it 1.2. Now I can change that to 1.2, but obviously if I decide to change my rate from £1.20 to £1.30 or £1, obviously that will not be correct. So what I'm going to do is I can keep it locked onto that cell, which is known as absolute cell referencing. So that's absolute cell referencing. That keeps it locked onto that cell. Now, as I'm dragging down, you can see that number is changing of the cell reference. So I just want to keep it locked to that B4. So what I need to do is if I put a dollar sign, the dollar sign's got nothing to do with currency in this case. It's just an indication, or that's the sort of letter, or the what is it's a symbol that we use. So if I put a dollar sign before the 4, and now if I drag that down, that keeps that locked until 4, and that's filled that in beautifully for me. So if you want to do that for me, please. Now the next thing I wanted to do is calculate the total income from telephone vaults in cell E19. So E19, I'll come here. I want to calculate the total income from telephone vaults. Now, what we want to do, if we were a maths, we would simply add all of these numbers together. We're not going to do it that way. I'm going to show you 2 ways you could do this. You can either do equals, and you can enter E9 plus E10 plus E11. We could type them in, or a quicker way we could do that is simply click on that, and that puts the cell in there for me, plus, and I can add all of these like so. Now that's not too bad where I've only got 10 cells, okay? But imagine, and that's given me this figure here, imagine if I had 100 cells. So another way we could do that is equals sum, and obviously sum means to add some numbers up, open bracket, what cells do I want to add up? I can simply click on this, I'm holding, I'm not letting go, I'm dragging down, and now I'm going to let go of my mouse. I can close my bracket with the shift and 0, enter, and that will give me the figure added up. Okay, so if you'd like to please do that for cell E19, and I want you to complete the same for the text vaults. For text vaults, I want you to put in all the vaults for me. I want you to calculate the income and the total income for me, please. Now, the next thing I wanted you to do is look at the fact that I'm a Celebrity 2019. They donated 15 pence from every vote to the Make-A-Wish charity. Of course, we are going to do the same. So for every vote, we will donate 15 pence to charity. So this is going to be a trickier one. So I'm going to go to cell B24, and I want to enter amount per vote to donate. So B24, which is over here, how much am I going to donate? Now, I could do 15 pence. The trouble with that is I cannot really do maths with that because it's got a letter inside it. We know that P is referring to pence, but unfortunately the spreadsheet will not. So we can actually put 15 instead for pence. Now the problem is 15 pence is not really the best thing to use. Pence, when we multiply it by something, it's going to give us a whole number. So even better, we could use 0.15, which stands for 0.15 of a pound. So when we multiply that with a huge number, obviously we could find out exactly how much money we're getting. Now I want you to enter a formula to calculate the amount donated to charity from telephone votes. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to add up all these votes, and then I'm going to need to times it by that. So equals sum, open bracket, like we just looked at. I can highlight all of these cells, close my bracket. That will tell me how many volts I've got. Now I'm going to multiply that by whatever's in this cell. And there we go. Okay. So I've got my donation to now. You may have noticed I've actually put that in the wrong cell. I did want that in C28, and I've actually entered that in C27. So I can actually cut that, and I can paste that there, and that will give me the correct formula. We could do the same for the telephone vote, for the text votes as well. Now in cell C30, I want you to calculate the total amount of donations from both of them. That's a simple addition formula there. And then I want you to enter a formula to calculate the profit. So we should have total income from telephone votes, total income from text votes, and then we could have a total that we're donating. We should be able to use that to calculate the profit. Then what I want you to do is change the formatting of your spreadsheet to make it easier to use. So as you can see, we can add various borders. So what I can do is I can highlight this table here, and I can add borders inside. And if I wanted a thicker border, I could do that like so. I've got another table here, which I might want to do the same. So let's bring that back to a smaller one, all inside. Let's go to a thicker one on the outside. And we could do the same for our charity donation. So again, thinner one on the outside, thinner on the inside, thicker on the outside, and we can really make that maybe really thick. Okay, and in fact, let's put one around that as well. What I can do is I can also use the Shift Control key, and I can select all of these titles. I can perhaps make them bigger and change the color of them. Maybe change the color of this, maybe make that something a bit more jazzy, make the text of that white. Various things I can do to make that look a little bit more presentable. Okay, please try to get all of that done. And then once you're done with that, we will carry on with the spreadsheets next week.